from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on AgDay, another round of NAFTA negotiations end with little to show. Ratoon rice harvest is wrapping up in Louisiana, and agribusiness looking to lock in prices for 2018.
There's a lot of tools that you can use, but the thing is, you've got to be willing to try something.
Canada needs less U.S. butter, and these future veterinarian assistants are getting an education at short time.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. A fresh round of NAFTA negotiations leave little to show and plenty of questions about the future of the trilateral trade deal. In a grim assessment of those negotiations, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer says, quote, "While we have made progress on some of our efforts to modernize NAFTA, I remain concerned about the lack of headway." The fifth round of talks wrapping up just last week in Mexico City. Lighthizer says thus far they have seen no evidence that Canada or Mexico are willing to seriously engage on issues that will lead to a rebalanced agreement. He says, quote, "Absent rebalancing, we will not reach a satisfactory result." The U.S. Grains Council says talk of walking away from that agreement is already impacting trade.
Our competitors are starting to penetrate. They're starting to increase their sales, more so on soybeans, but right now in corn, they're looking at it. There's Plan B. Everybody we talk to is looking at a Plan B. How can I diversify my sources of supply? And like we were talking a little bit about this, the U.S. is no longer seen as a reliable supplier, which is really alarming news for us in terms of the investment we put into making our economies and our businesses intertwine over 35 years.
The Financial Times, speaking with former Mexican trade officials, say while walking out on the agreement will hurt the U.S., it would likely hurt Mexico more, adding for that reason, gridlock may ease at some point. All sides agreed to meet again in Washington in December and Montreal in January. Meanwhile, the South Korean trade minister says his country will not take a step backward in the upcoming discussions on updating the South Korean U.S. free trade deal known as KORUS. Local reports saying the government is taking a strong stand on the agriculture sector and will not retreat any further. This was similar to a comment made by the top Korean negotiator back in October. He said the ag sector is a red line. After a White House meeting with President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence, Republican members of the Senate Finance Committee say they are planning a vote this week on their tax overhaul plan. The committee passing the bill last Thursday evening. Texas Senator John Cornyn says the Senate bill makes what he calls substantial improvements over the House version.
We'll work through those when we get to a conference committee with the House. But the goal is to get the economy growing again, to get people with a little more take-home pay they can spend the way they see fit or save it for their retirement, and to make the United States economy competitive in a global economy where everybody's fighting for every single job and every single investment they can get.
Committee Chair Senator Orrin Hatch says he remains hopeful to finish the bill before Christmas, but there are only 11 days left on the calendar before Congress recesses for the holidays. Did you spend part of Thanksgiving in the cab of your combine? USDA's final crop progress report for 2017 showing slight delays in the Midwest. Ohio and Wisconsin are 9 points behind in corn harvest. Overall, 95% now in the bin. That's 3 points behind the 5-year average. The winter wheat crop losing some of its quality. The Ag Department saying half of that crop rated good to excellent, down 2 points from last week. Some states are showing struggles as we head into winter. Montana's winter wheat, 33% good to excellent, 52% is fair. 30% of Oklahoma's wheat is good to excellent, 60% fair. South Dakota, 18% good to excellent, 38% poor to very poor there. USDA will update these numbers monthly throughout March. Rice farmers across South Louisiana are wrapping up the harvest of their ratoon or second crop rice. This year's second crop yield has been good, but it will not offset the disappointing harvest of the first crop. LSU Ag Center's Craig Gautreaux has the story.
Rice farmers across South Louisiana are finding good yields for their ratoon crop. This crop is the regrowth from fields that were harvested during the summer. Farmers are becoming more dependent upon producing a second crop because rice prices have stagnated the past several years. While smaller in yield than the first harvest, the second crop requires fewer inputs.
Typically, on average, you would expect to see about 1/3 of the yield in the ratoon crop is what you see in the main crop, and it looks like we've met that.
One way farmers can increase the yield of the ratoon crop is manipulating the stubble after the first harvest. Farmers can cut or roll the stubble, which stimulates growth from the bottom of the plant and leads to more grains.
It makes a great deal of difference. I mean, we went from making 6 or 8 barrels second crop to making 14 to 17 consistently now.
Vale's field was part of the LSU Ag Center's rice verification program. One of the goals of the program is to educate farmers to make their operations more efficient. Participants also learn when is the proper time to add inputs, such as fertilizer or herbicides.
That's one of the most important things that people get from this program, the timeliness of the applications being made at the right time, being made when the plant will most benefit from it, and not making an application that the plant will no longer benefit from.
While the second crop has met expectations, it will not be enough to make up for the lower yields of the first crop.
It was probably one of our worst yielding seasons that we've had in a long time, even worse than last year. Last year we averaged probably about 7,000 pounds per acre. This year we're probably going to be about 250 pounds per acre less than that.
The low yields can be blamed on excessive rain, wind, and overcast conditions that led to many unfilled grains. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
The long holiday weekend was a challenge for folks living along the Skagit River north of Seattle. The river reached its highest level in 11 years. Several other rivers in western Washington were also under flood warnings. Residents were forced to evacuate. Some have since returned to their homes. Let's continue our look around the country with meteorologist Mike Hoffman. He has today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Welcome back, Clinton. Our first crop comment is one Trey Dunaway took of a still night in Hawkinsville, Georgia. The crops are all harvested, he says. Trey can take a moment to relax now. As you can see here, Gary Bahan in central Ohio says he's near the end of harvest. He loves the steam and smell of the crop. Almost all of the state's soybeans and 3/4 of the state's corn has already been harvested. And taking a look at the weather map, not a lot going on across the country. Even the front dissecting the Corn Belt, not exactly causing much in the way of rain. We'll talk more about your forecast over the next few days coming up in a few minutes. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Farm Journal On Air is the go-to app for American agriculture. AgDay, AgriTalk, U.S. Farm Report, and more. 24/7 access to all of your favorite shows, TV and radio. In your hands, on demand. Farm Journal On Air. Download the app today.
All right, when we come back, we'll look ahead at 2018 pricing and what it could mean for your marketing plan. Plus, Canada's dairy industry is demanding less from America's milk parlors. We'll have details in our dairy report.
I'm Charles Denny. Vet techs assist veterinarians in caring for animals large and small and down on the farm. We'll show you how they get some of their training with the University of Tennessee Ag Research. That story coming up on Ag Day.
Receive a free trial of the Daily Grain Plan newsletter from Roach Ag Marketing. Text Roach to 31313. Start your subscription today by texting Roach to 31313.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
2017 markets are quickly coming to a close, so how do things compare to a year ago? Tyne Morgan has more in today's analysis.
Here now with Matt Bennett of Bennett Consulting. Matt, we're entering in the final few weeks of 2017. It's hard to believe, but as we look to 2018, are profit margins looking any better than we're seeing this year?
Well, you know, let's just take a look at where Nova 17 went off the board compared to where Nova 18 was at the same time. Huge carry in the market, D17 to D18, big carry. It's been running 45, 46 cents. You know, so if you ask a lot of producers, hey, if you could sell corn at 385, 390 on the 17 crop, where would your profit margins have come in? Well, obviously we didn't know we were going to have the kind of yields that we had, but we have to take into account that margin is there right now. Do we want to go ahead and lock some of that in? I think one thing we have to do is we've got to plug it in. We pretty much know what our costs are at this point in the game. We know what fertilizer is, pretty much know what our chemical costs are. Plug it in and see where our profit margins would be if we would lock some 390 in.
You know, on the show, we keep hearing from analysts who say the carry is your friend right now. But, you know, for a lot of those farmers out there, how do they take advantage of that carry? What steps need to be taken, Matt?
Well, you know, whenever we're talking about 18, a true hedge in the market. flat out a true hedge in the market, if it's a profitable situation for you, is a good way to go. If you go ahead and slide into the winter time, you know, we've talked about buying courage calls here the last couple of years. Well, you buy a call later on if the market scales back. Then you have an insulated hedge. You don't really care whether the market goes up, down, or sideways. So there's a lot of tools that you can use, but the thing is, you've got to be willing to try something.
Yeah, and is it the same story for beans, or are you suggesting maybe hold tight because better prices could be ahead?
Well, with $10 November beans, how can you go wrong with hedging some? I want to get started on the program. Last year, you know, we had all of our beans hedged in this 10 to 10.30 range. We had a lot of time to do so.
Right.
It wasn't like it was rocket science.
Right, yeah.
I'm just locking in profit margins, and then, you know what, there's a lot you can do in the market later on, and you're not going to get too carried away, in my opinion, but simply getting started, I don't see how you can go wrong.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us. Let's take a quick break here on Ag Day, and then we have a check of weather.
For advice on the best way to be profitable on your farm, contact Matt at 217-273-1133. Ag Day, brought to you by John Deere. Where can you find the most comprehensive inventory of John Deere certified pre-owned tractors, combines, and sprayers? Machinefinder.com. Sometimes the
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, is pretty mild really through the holiday weekend. Do we think that pattern's going to hold or not?
Yeah, good timing for the holidays, no doubt about it. In my opinion, we do eventually go back to cold in the east and warm in the west. I'll show you why coming up. In the meantime, though, we continue with some fairly tranquil weather coast to coast, except for the Pacific Northwest. We do have this front right through the middle of the country. There will be some areas of moisture along it, but not a lot. Otherwise, high pressure out west, high pressure in the southeast, and high pressure in the northeast. Putting the maps into motion, you can see maybe a spotty shower or two here and there along this front from the Great Lakes across northwestern Indiana and Illinois later on today. And then we'll see this area of low pressure in Oklahoma. That'll be producing a little bit of rain as well. Far northwest side might be a bit of snow or ice in those areas. That should not be widespread the way it looks now. This is a pretty potent system coming in out west with lots of rain along the coast and snow farther in the mountains. And you can see as we head into tomorrow morning, some areas of showers, parts of Kansas into Oklahoma with that area of low pressure. Otherwise mainly dry along this front until you get into the northeast with a few showers there. And as we head through the day tomorrow, that slow mover in the southern plains, some areas are going to see those showers and you're going to think it's kind of a wet day, but for the rest of the Midwest, not a lot going on. Even this front really dries out once it's east of the Rockies, and we have another one approaching the northwest as we head into tomorrow afternoon. So there's the map for precipitation over the past 24 hours. As you can see, very little, adding in the next 36. We're not going to add a whole lot either. We'll add a little bit to New England, but we'll add some areas, northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, northwestern Arkansas, may get a ½ inch to an inch in some areas. Most of the moisture is in the Rockies westward, and a lot of that in higher elevations in the form of snow over the past 24 hours, and we'll add a little bit more in the Pacific Northwest, northern Idaho, western Montana over the next 36 hours. There are the temperatures: 70s, Texas through the Gulf Coast, mild 50s all the way into the southern portions of the Great Lakes. Lows tonight, though, the colder air starts to come back. This is not Arctic air per se, but a little bit colder with high lows in the 20s as we start today tomorrow, 40s all the way down into northern Georgia. Highs tomorrow afternoon, 70s still along the Gulf Coast, and 30s and 40s farther to the north behind that front. Here's the jet stream, and here's why I think after the atmosphere takes a breather over the next 5 days, we suddenly start to go back to colder in the east and warmer out west. We'll see if this settles in, but that's what the models are suggesting about a week from now. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, Sacramento, California today, morning fog around, then becoming partly sunny, high of 59. Mankato, Minnesota, a good deal of sunshine and mild for the upper Midwest, high of 51. And Florence, South Carolina, sunny to partly cloudy, high of 70.
Canada needs less U.S. butter. We'll tell you why in our dairy report. That's after the break. And later, this career starts with morning chores. We'll tell you how this is helping teach students to be better at treating sick animals.
Ag Day, brought to you by new Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans. Achieve personal best yields. The Dairy Report on Ag Day is brought to you by QLF. For 40 years, QLF has been proud to support American farmers that feed the world.
In today's Dairy Report, Canada appears to be becoming less dependent on U.S. imports of certain dairy products, particularly butter. Our partners over at Farm Journal's Milk say Canada has been ramping up milk production. For the first 8 months of the year, Canada's milk industry produced nearly 6% more milk. That increase cut into butterfat exports from the U.S., and Canadian cream imports fell nearly 15%. Now, the production increase comes as the U.S. pushes Canada to dismantle its quota system. That proposal coming during the fourth round of NAFTA talks. It's expected Canada will suddenly reject the plan. California dairy farmers have received an extension to mail in their ballots on a proposed quota implementation plan. They now have until December 22nd. The proposed QIP must be approved before California dairy producers can vote to implement a federal milk marketing order. The state extended the deadline because of the wildfires this fall. October commercial red meat production for the U.S. totaling 4.64 billion pounds. That's up 5% from October of 2016. Beef production 4% higher, while actual slaughter numbers climbed 6%. The average live weight fell 20 pounds from the previous year. Pork production, it rose 5%, with hog slaughter also climbing 5% from October of 2016. Those live weights were unchanged. Up next, a collaborative effort to get more vet techs in the field and on the job in the country when we return.
Shop Machine Repeat's Cyber Sale from November 27th to December 4th. Find special reduced price deals on all types of equipment from dealerships across the country. Make a purchase and receive $200 extra holiday cash. Visit www.machinerepeat.com/sale. In the country. Brought to you by Kubota's M7 series. Learn more about the largest tractor in Kubota history at Kubota.com.
Veterinary technicians work in a growing field, assisting veterinarians with critical medical tests for animals large and small. Students studying to be vet techs at Columbia State Community College are teaming up with UT Ag Research for some hands-on instruction. In this report, provided by UT Institute of Ag, Charles Denny shows us how their training includes chores on a working farm.
Milking time at a busy dairy, and the cows have lots of human help. UT's Middle Tennessee Research and Education Center has dairy and beef herds, and that's where Erica Sequel's schooling comes in. She's studying to be a veterinary technician at nearby Columbia State Community College. Erica and her classmates often make the trip over to the Ag Research Center to work with the cattle, a great way to prepare for a future career.
Oh, most definitely, yeah. Especially if you want to do a large animal, if you want to go out into the cattle or you want to do beef or dairy, it definitely gets you that hands-on experience and that knowledge that you need, dealing with the calves, the moms, everything.
And here at the Middle Tennessee Research and Education Center, we have a production dairy so that they can actually come and participate in the milking process, many of the health management practices, and many of the nutritional management practices on a daily basis.
Columbia State is known for its excellent vet tech program. About 70 students enrolled this semester. Years ago, 1998 to be exact, Columbia State began this partnership with UT Ag Research, and it's been beneficial to both institutes.
To date, probably 2,000 students have been on this property that were Columbia State students, either for a lab experience or actually hands-on procedures. Some would just visit to see how the facility operates and what large-scale production ag looks like.
These students picked an academic major that looks promising. Vet tech jobs are projected to continue growing by nearly 20% a year between now and 2024. A vet tech performs a number of duties in animal health care. They work with dogs and cats, but livestock too, like these 1,500-pound cows. An important part of their training is safety for them and the cattle.
That's a big vital importance for a veterinarian to be able to have somebody that knows how to handle cows and work cows through a chute or corral area and properly restrain them.
Experts say there's a future need for more large animal veterinarians and vet techs. These students all share a concern for animals, and with proper training, that's something that can turn into a promising career. This is Charles Denny reporting.
Charles says Columbia State Vet Tech students spend more than half their academic training in off-campus veterinary facilities. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.